I'll never forget the day my grandson's father showed up at my doorstep, demanding I pay him $90,000 for childcare services. I was shocked and didn't know what to say. I had raised my grandson for 12 years, since his mother passed away when he was just a baby. His father had never been in the picture, so I thought I was doing the right thing by taking care of him. As I looked at the bill in my hand, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. $90,000 was a lot of money, and I didn't know if I could afford it. But I knew I had to try. I had raised my grandson as my own, and I couldn't just abandon him now. I asked his father why he was demanding this money now, after all these years. He just shrugged and said that he had been thinking about it a lot lately, and he realized that he had missed out on a lot of money by not being involved in his son's life. I was angry and hurt by his response. Didn't he care about his son at all? Didn't he want to be a part of his life? I told him that I would try to pay the money, but I couldn't promise anything. I would have to talk to my financial advisor and see what we could do. As he left, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. What was going to happen next? Would I be able to pay the money? And what would happen to my grandson if I couldn't? I decided to sit down and make a list of all my assets and expenses. I had a small pension from my old job, and I had been living off of that for years. I also had a small savings account, but it wasn't much. I knew I would have to dip into it if I wanted to pay the $90,000. As I looked at my list, I realized that I might not be able to pay the full amount. I would have to negotiate with my grandson's father and see if we could come to some kind of agreement. But I was determined to do whatever it took to take care of my grandson. The next day, I called my financial advisor and asked for his advice. He told me that I should try to negotiate with my grandson's father and see if we could come to a settlement. He also suggested that I might want to consider taking out a loan, but I wasn't sure if that was a good idea. I decided to call my grandson's father and ask him if we could talk. I wanted to see if we could come to some kind of agreement, and if there was any way I could avoid paying the full $90,000. But as I waited for him to answer, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Why was he demanding this money now, after all these years? And what did he plan to do with it? I would have to wait and see what happened next. But one thing was for sure, I would do whatever it took to take care of my grandson. He was my family, and I would fight to protect him no matter what. As I waited for my grandson's father to answer the phone, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. What was his real motive for demanding this money? Was he just looking for a quick payout, or was there something more to it? Finally, he answered, and I asked him if we could talk about the $90,000. He agreed, and we set up a meeting for the next day. The next day, I arrived at the meeting spot, a small coffee shop in town. My grandson's father was already there, sipping on a cup of coffee. He looked calm and collected, but I could sense a hint of nervousness beneath the surface. "So, what do you want to talk about?" he asked, looking at me with a hint of aggression. "I want to know why you're demanding this money," I said, trying to keep my cool. "You've never been involved in your son's life, and now you're coming out of the woodwork, demanding $90,000. What's going on?" He leaned back in his chair, a smug expression spreading across his face. "I'm just looking for what's owed to me," he said. "I've been thinking about this a lot, and I realized that I missed out on a lot of money by not being involved in my son's life. And now, I want it." I shook my head, trying to understand his reasoning. "But you didn't even care about your son when he was growing up," I said. "Why should you get any money now?" He shrugged. "That's not the point. The point is that I'm his father, and I deserve to be compensated for my role in his life." I sighed, feeling a sense of frustration. "Look, I understand that you're his father, but you can't just come out of nowhere and demand $90,000. That's not fair to me, and it's not fair to your son." He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "I'm not asking for your opinion," he said. "I'm telling you that I want $90,000, and I expect to get it." I felt a surge of anger, but I tried to keep my cool. "I'm not going to give you $90,000, I said. "I'll try to negotiate with you, but I'm not going to give you that much money." He smiled, a cold, calculating smile. "We'll see about that," he said. "I have a lawyer, and we're going to take you to court if necessary. You'll be sorry you ever crossed me." I felt a chill run down my spine as he stood up and walked out of the coffee shop. I knew that I was in for a fight, and I was determined to do whatever it took to protect my grandson. Over the next few weeks, the tension between us escalated. My grandson's father and his lawyer sent me threatening letters, demanding that I pay the $90,000. I refused, and the situation continued to deteriorate. I knew that I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. I felt like I was being bullied and intimidated, and I didn't know how to fight back. One day, I received a call from a mysterious stranger. "I know what's going on with your grandson's father," the stranger said. "And I can help you." I was skeptical, but I decided to listen. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I mean that I have information that can help you," the stranger said. "Information that can prove that your grandson's father is not what he seems. Are you interested?" I hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do. But then I decided to take a chance. "Yes," I said. "I'm interested." The stranger agreed to meet with me, and we set up a time and place. I was nervous, but I was also hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, this stranger could help me uncover the truth about my grandson's father and put an end to this nightmare once and for all. As I waited for the meeting, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. What would the stranger reveal? And how would it affect my situation with my grandson's father? I was about to find out. I arrived at the designated meeting spot, a small park on the outskirts of town, and looked around for the stranger. I didn't see anyone, but then I heard a voice behind me. "Over here," the voice said. I turned around and saw a figure emerging from the shadows. It was a woman, dressed in a long coat and a hat, and she looked like she meant business. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "My name is not important," she said. "What's important is that I have information that can help you. Information about your grandson's father." I felt a surge of curiosity and walked closer to her. "What kind of information?" I asked. "I have proof that your grandson's father is not who he says he is," she said. "He's been lying to you, and to your grandson, about his past and his intentions. And I have the documents to prove it." I felt a chill run down my spine as I listened to her words. Could it be true? Was my grandson's father really a liar? "What kind of documents?" I asked, trying to keep my cool. "I have bank statements, emails, and other records that show your grandson's father's true intentions," she said. "He's not just looking for money, he's looking for revenge. Revenge against you and your family for something that happened a long time ago." I felt a wave of fear wash over me as I listened to her words. Revenge? What did she mean? What happened a long time ago? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "That's not for me to say," she said. "But I can give you the documents, and you can see for yourself. Are you interested?" I hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do. But then I decided to take a chance. "Yes," I said. "I'm interested." She handed me a folder filled with documents, and I took it, feeling a sense of trepidation. What would I find in there? And what would it mean for my family and me? As I looked through the documents, I felt a sense of shock and horror. The stranger was right. My grandson's father was not who he said he was. He had a secret past, one that he had been hiding from us all along. I felt a sense of anger and betrayal as I read through the documents. How could he do this to us? How could he lie to us like this? But as I read on, I realized that there was more to the story. Something that the stranger hadn't told me. Something that made my blood run cold. I looked up at the stranger, who was watching me with a serious expression. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "You don't know the whole story," she said. "You don't know what's really at stake here." I felt a sense of fear and uncertainty as I listened to her words. What did she mean? What was really at stake? Tell me, I said, trying to keep my cool. The stranger hesitated, looking around nervously. I'm not sure I should be telling you this, she said. But I think you need to know. Your grandson's father is not just looking for money or revenge. He's looking for something much bigger. Something that could destroy your family and everything you hold dear. I felt a wave of fear wash over me as I listened to her words. What was she talking about? What could be so big and so destructive? I looked at her, trying to keep my cool. Tell me, I said. What is it? The stranger hesitated, looking around nervously. I'm not sure I should be telling you this, she said. But I think you need to know. Your grandson's father is looking for a way to take control of your family's business. A way to take everything you've worked for and destroy it. I felt a sense of shock and horror as I listened to her words. Take control of our business? Destroy everything we'd worked for? It couldn't be true. But as I looked at the stranger, I saw the truth in her eyes. It was true. My grandson's father was looking for a way to take everything from us. And I had to stop him. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I listened to the stranger's words. Take control of our business? Destroy everything we'd worked for? It was unthinkable. I knew I had to act fast, but I didn't know where to start. The stranger seemed to sense my unease and placed a hand on my arm. Don't worry, I'm here to help, she said. But we need to be careful. Your grandson's father is not someone to be underestimated. He's ruthless and will stop at nothing to get what he wants. I nodded, trying to process everything she was telling me. What do we need to do? I asked. First, we need to gather more information, she said. We need to know exactly what he's planning and how we can stop him. I nodded, determination growing inside me. I'll do whatever it takes to protect my family's business, I said. The stranger smiled, a small, fierce smile. I knew I could count on you, she said. Together, we started to dig deeper, trying to uncover the truth about my grandson's father's plans. We spent hours poring over documents, talking to people who knew him, and trying to piece together the puzzle. And what we found was shocking. My grandson's father had been secretly building a team of lawyers and accountants, all of whom were experts in corporate law. He had been quietly buying up shares of our company, slowly but surely gaining control. And he had been using his son, my grandson, as a pawn in his game. I felt a wave of anger and betrayal wash over me as I realized the extent of his plan. How could he do this to his own son? How could he use him like this? I knew I had to act fast, to stop him before it was too late. But as I looked at the stranger, I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. What's wrong? I asked. I'm not sure we can stop him, she said. He's too powerful, too well connected. We're just two people against a machine. I felt a surge of fear, but I pushed it aside. I knew I couldn't give up. Not now, not when everything was at stake. We'll find a way, I said. We have to. The stranger nodded, a small smile on her face. I believe you, she said. Let's do this. Together, we started to make a plan, to find a way to stop my grandson's father and save our family's business. We knew it wouldn't be easy, but we were determined to try. As we worked, the tension grew, the stakes higher than ever before. I knew I was taking a risk, but I was willing to do whatever it took to protect my family. And as I looked at the stranger, I knew she was willing to do the same. We were in this together, and we would see it through to the end. But as we delved deeper into the world of corporate espionage, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were in over our heads. That we were playing with fire, and that the consequences could be disastrous. I pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task at hand. But as the hours ticked by, the shadows seemed to grow longer, the air thickening with tension. I knew we were running out of time, and that the clock was ticking. We had to act fast, before it was too late. But as I looked around, I realized that we were being watched. That there were eyes on us, eyes that were waiting for us to make a move. And I knew that we were in grave danger. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized we were being watched. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it was just paranoia, but I couldn't shake the sense that we were being observed. I glanced around the room, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Just the usual office equipment and furniture. But the feeling persisted. I turned to the stranger, trying to keep my voice low. "Do you feel that?" I asked. She looked at me, her eyes narrowing. "Feel what?" she asked. "Like we're being watched," I said. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, I feel it too," she said. We both looked around the room again, this time more slowly, searching for any sign of surveillance. But there was nothing. No cameras, no microphones, no hidden observers. Just the two of us, alone in the room. But the feeling didn't go away. If anything, it intensified. I could feel eyes on us, boring into our skin. I tried to focus on the task at hand, but it was no use. My mind was racing, my senses on high alert. Suddenly, the stranger's phone beeped. She pulled it out, looked at the screen, and her expression changed. "What is it?" I asked. "We have to get out of here," she said. "Now." I didn't ask questions. I just followed her as she quickly gathered her things and headed for the door. We moved swiftly and silently, our hearts pounding in our chests. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew it couldn't be good. As we reached the door, I heard a noise behind us. A faint rustling sound, like someone was moving through the shadows. I spun around, but there was no one there. The stranger grabbed my arm and pulled me out into the hallway. "Come on," she said. "We have to get out of here." I didn't need to be told twice. We ran down the hallway, our footsteps echoing off the walls. I didn't know where we were going, but I knew we had to get away from that room. As we reached the stairs, I heard the sound of footsteps behind us. Heavy, deliberate footsteps, like someone was following us. I didn't look back. I just kept running, my heart pounding in my chest. We reached the bottom of the stairs and burst out into the night air. The cool wind hit me like a slap in the face, but I didn't slow down. I kept running, my eyes fixed on the stranger as she led me through the streets. I didn't know where we were going, but I knew we had to keep moving. We ran for what felt like hours, our breath coming in ragged gasps. Finally, we reached a small alleyway and ducked into it. The stranger leaned against the wall, her chest heaving. "We have to catch our breath," she said. I nodded, trying to calm my racing heart. But as I looked around, I realized that we weren't safe yet. The alleyway was dark and narrow, with tall buildings looming on either side. We were trapped. And I knew that whoever was following us would find us eventually. I looked around the alleyway, trying to take in every detail. The walls were high and imposing, casting long shadows that seemed to move and twist in the dim light. The air was thick with the smell of garbage and decay, and I could hear the distant sound of sirens wailing through the streets. The stranger was watching me, her eyes narrowed as she tried to read my expression. "We have to keep moving," she said, her voice low and urgent. "We can't stay here." I nodded, trying to shake off the feeling of unease that was growing inside me. We started to move, our footsteps echoing off the walls as we made our way deeper into the alleyway. The darkness seemed to press in around us, making it hard to see more than a few feet in front of us. I stumbled, my foot catching on a loose stone, and the stranger caught my arm to steady me. "Careful," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We kept moving, our senses on high alert as we tried to navigate the treacherous terrain. The alleyway seemed to stretch on forever, twisting and turning through the city like a snake. I didn't know where we were going, but I knew we had to keep moving. Suddenly, the stranger stopped, her head cocked to one side as she listened to something. I strained my ears, trying to hear what she was hearing, but there was nothing. Just the distant sound of sirens, and the creaking of old buildings in the wind. "What is it?" I whispered, my heart pounding in my chest. The stranger didn't answer. She just stood there, her eyes fixed on something in the distance. I followed her gaze, trying to see what she was looking at. And then I saw it. A figure, standing in the shadows at the end of the alleyway. watching us. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized we were trapped. The figure didn't move, didn't react in any way. It just stood there, watching us with an unblinking gaze. The stranger's hand tightened on my arm, her fingers digging deep into my skin. "We have to get out of here," she whispered. "Now." I nodded, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let's go." We started to move, our footsteps echoing off the walls as we tried to get away from the figure. But it was too late. The figure started to move, its eyes fixed on us as it began to walk towards us. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my senses on high alert as I tried to prepare for what was coming. The stranger was pulling me along, her grip on my arm like a vice. We were running, our footsteps echoing off the walls as we tried to get away from the figure. But it was gaining on us, its eyes fixed on us with an unblinking gaze. I could feel its breath on the back of my neck, cold and rank and terrifying. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, everything stopped. The figure stopped moving, its eyes fixed on us with a cold, calculating gaze. The stranger stopped pulling me along, her grip on my arm relaxing as she turned to face the figure. I turned too, my heart pounding in my chest as I waited to see what would happen next. The figure stood there, its eyes fixed on us with a cold, calculating gaze. The stranger stood tall, her eyes flashing with a fierce determination. I stood beside her, my heart pounding in my chest as I waited to see what would happen next. And then, in a flash of insight, I understood. I understood the truth about my grandson's father, and the extent of his betrayal. I understood the depth of his greed and his ambition. And I knew that I had to act. With a fierce cry, I launched myself at the figure, my fists flying as I demanded justice for my family. The stranger joined me, her eyes blazing with a fierce determination as we fought for what was rightfully ours. The figure tried to defend itself, but it was no match for our combined fury. We fought with every ounce of strength we had, determined to bring it to its knees. And in the end, we succeeded. The figure lay defeated at our feet, its eyes filled with a deep and abiding shame. As we stood over it, our chests heaving with exhaustion, I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me. We had won. We had fought for what was rightfully ours, and we had emerged victorious. The stranger turned to me, her eyes shining with tears. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for standing up for what's right." I nodded, my own eyes filling with tears. "We did it together," I said. "We fought for justice, and we won." As we hugged each other, the tension and the stress of the past few days finally began to dissipate. We had done it. We had brought the perpetrator to justice, and we had reclaimed what was rightfully ours. The stranger pulled back, a smile on her face. "I think it's time we went to the police," she said. "I think it's time we told them the truth about your grandson's father." I nodded, a sense of relief washing over me. We had done it. We had fought for justice, and we had won. As we walked to the police station, hand in hand, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We had fought for what was rightfully ours, and we had emerged victorious. The police listened to our story, their faces filled with shock and outrage. They took statements and evidence, and they promised to bring the perpetrator to justice. As we left the police station, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. We had done it. We had fought for justice, and we had won. The stranger turned to me, a smile on her face. "You're free," she said. "You're finally free from the past." I nodded, a sense of peace washing over me. I was free. I was finally free from the past, and I could start to rebuild my life. As we walked away from the police station, hand in hand, I knew that I would never forget this moment. I would never forget the sense of satisfaction and closure that I felt. We had fought for justice, and we had won. And as we walked off into the sunset, I knew that we would always stand together, as long as we lived. Epilogue. The trial was a sensational one, with the media covering every detail. My grandson's father was found guilty of all charges, and he was sentenced to a long prison term. As I sat in the courtroom, listening to the verdict, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. We had fought for justice, and we had won. The stranger was by my side, her hand in mine as we listened to the verdict. We had done it together, and we had emerged victorious. As we left the courtroom, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I was finally free from the past, and I could start to rebuild my life. The stranger turned to me, a smile on her face. "You're free," she said. "You're finally free from the past." I nodded, a sense of gratitude washing over me. I was free, and I would always be grateful to the stranger who had helped me to achieve that freedom. We walked off into the sunset, hand in hand, ready to start a new chapter in our lives. We had fought for justice, and we had won. And as we walked, I knew that we would always stand together, as long as we lived.